They told you that caring is strength. They whispered it in self-help seminars, preached it in wellness podcasts, and carved it into the foundation of every modern relationship. They said showing emotion makes you noble, that being vulnerable is what makes you human. But I'm here to tell you that's the most dangerous lie ever sold to a generation. It's a trick. It's a soft velvet glove wrapped around a razor-sharp control mechanism. Because that's not strength. That's exposure. Look closely at the word. Exposure. When you expose the deepest workings of your soul, your fears, your needs, your fervent desire to be understood and accepted, you don't find connection. You provide leverage. You hand over the blueprint for your own manipulation. And exposure, my friend, always gets exploited. It is a fundamental law of human interaction that the more you care, the more you emotionally invest in outcomes, in people, in validation, the more they can and will control you. Think back, way back to childhood. You were conditioned from the very first breath to seek approval. That gold star, that nod from the parent, that moment of temporary warmth from a peer. We were molded to worry about how others saw us, to constantly prove our worth, to apologize for our intensity, our ambition, our very presence. And in doing so, we handed our power away, piece by piece. You didn't even realize you were doing it, did you? You thought you were building bridges when, in reality, you were constructing a cage of emotional obligation with yourself inside. You genuinely believed that being emotionally available, a raw nerve ending constantly exposed to the winds of opinion, would bring you deep, meaningful connection. Instead, what did it bring? Anxiety. Crippling. Paralyzing anxiety over a text message not immediately returned. It brought emotional exhaustion, the kind that leaves you staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., replaying conversations, analyzing intent that probably wasn't even there. It brought mental instability, the kind where your mood is dictated not by your purpose, but by the fleeting approval or disapproval of people who, honestly, wouldn't cross the street for you. You're playing a game, and the rules were set by your opponent. And in this game, your emotions are the chips you keep throwing onto the table, hoping for a jackpot acceptance that never comes. The greatest minds in strategy understood this. Niccolo Machiavelli, the cold, clear eye of political realism, would simply laugh at this modern addiction to being liked. He wouldn't understand it. He wouldn't tolerate it. He understood something most people still can't face, a terrifying truth that cuts through the fog of feel-good psychology. Power doesn't come from being emotional. It comes from mastering emotion. When you care too much, you invite the worst. They poke your wounds just to see if you bleed. And when you react, when you give them that desperate, over-explained defense, they escalate. They know they have you. When you try to win their validation, their respect, their affection, they simply withhold it. Why? Because withholding is leverage. It's control. Caring gives them the lever. And you, the proud, vulnerable, emotionally honest individual, you become predictable, weak, manipulable. You are no longer a free agent. You are a programmed response. Now, let's talk about the cold art of not caring. Hear me clearly. It is not cruelty. It is not apathy. It is strategy. It is choosing to be silent where others scream for attention. It's walking away from the table where others chase the crumbs of approval. It's watching them try to provoke you, to test your boundaries, to bait your reaction, and giving them nothing. And in that profound, powerful nothingness, you become untouchable. They can't hurt you with words if you don't validate their weapon. They can't control you with guilt if you don't subscribe to their narrative. I want you to internalize this. I want you to feel the fear of this truth, and then the sudden, immense freedom that comes after. You are a sovereign entity. Your emotional state is a national treasure. Why are you giving away free tours? Why are you leaving the vault door open for casual thieves? Say in the comments right now, not for them, but for yourself. Say, I owe no one an emotional explanation. Because the truth is simple, brutal, and utterly liberating. If you want to win this game, the game of life, influence, self-respect, you must stop caring about how you're seen. And you must start focusing on how you are remembered. The moment you prioritize the perception of you over your mission for yourself, you lose. You have sacrificed your internal sovereignty for a momentary, shallow hit of external validation. And that is a trait of strategists never, ever makes. The first, most critical pillar of this cold art is this. Caring makes you predictable. Predictability makes you weak. It's the brutal truth of the social hierarchy. If they can predict you, they can control you. If they know what makes you angry, they can generate that anger on demand. If they know what you desperately need, they can use it as a leash. And nothing, absolutely nothing, makes a person more predictable than caring too much, than needing to explain, needing to be right, needing to be understood. When people know what you react to, they know exactly how to manipulate your timeline, your energy, and your peace. Your silence becomes a precious commodity you constantly spend. Your presence becomes cheap. You become easy to read, easy to corner, easy to break. Every sigh, every over-explanation, every desperate, triple-checked text message exposes something deeper and more vulnerable. Your emotional need to be seen, understood, and accepted. That need, that is the chain. That is the leash they tug when they want control, when they want a favor, or when they simply want to remind you of your lower status. Machiavelli didn't live by emotion. He lived by leverage. He knew that true strength isn't shown in how loud you cry, how intensely you love, or how passionately you argue. It is shown in how quietly you watch the chaos unfold. It is demonstrated in the stillness of your face when the storm is at its worst, when you are unshaken by disrespect, when you are unaffected by praise, when no one can figure out what gets to you because genuinely nothing does. That's when you become dangerous. The person who doesn't flinch wins. The one who doesn't chase attracts. And the one who doesn't care controls the frame. This is a level where you stop reacting like a victim or a needy child, and you start behaving like a weapon, precise, silent, and effective. Say in the comments and let this mantra sink into your bones. My silence is my power. Because once they stop being able to predict your emotional trajectory, they stop being able to use you as a tool in their own messy drama. You have removed your energy from their chessboard, and now they must move differently. They must respect the silence. They must respect the wall you have become. And that, my friend, is where true control begins. The cold detachment is merely the beginning of your personal reign. The stage is set. The lie has been exposed. Now, let's talk about the players on this stage. Starting with you. Who are you right now? You are the highly sensitive, highly empathetic audience they targeted. You are the professional, the spouse, the friend, who believes that your value is contingent upon your availability. And your current problem, the anxiety that keeps you up, the resentment that poisons your success, is that you are suffering from a chronic disease of overinvestment. Look around. We live in an age of manufactured authenticity, where oversharing is mistaken for closeness. Everyone is perpetually online, perpetually performing, perpetually seeking witnesses to their interior life. The emotional atmosphere is thick with demands. Call me back. Explain yourself. Where do we stand? It is a psychological marketplace where the commodity being traded is emotional presence. And if you are giving your presence away freely, you are bankrupting your soul. My context for this message, the quiet, calculated philosophy you are about to adopt, comes from the shadow of the man who saw the political world not as it should be, but as it is, Niccolo Machiavelli. Now, I'm not asking you to become a tyrannical ruler. I'm asking you to become the ruler of your inner state. Your mental stability is your kingdom. Your inner peace is your throne, and you must defend it with the ruthlessness of Prince defending his actual territory. The problem, the core challenge that is draining your life force, is this: emotional investment is the setup for manipulation. I need you to grasp the tactical reality of every social interaction you have. The more emotionally invested you are, the easier it is to manipulate you. That's why, in every modern dynamic, whether it's dating, business, or even family matters, they rush to get you attached. They are looking to bypass your logic center and engage your feelings, because feelings don't use spreadsheets. Feelings make excuses. Think about the playbook of the manipulative person, the social predator. They'll praise you early, giving you that immediate, intense hit of validation you crave. They'll open up fast, sharing seemingly deep, vulnerable details about their life. They'll show vulnerability, yes, but not because they trust you. They do it because they want you to trust them. It is a setup. It's the cost of entry to the negotiation table, but you're the one paying the price. They are trying to create an emotional bond so tight that you cannot see the obvious red flags waving in the wind. The moment your emotions are involved, logic dies. It just evaporates. You stop being the objective strategist and become the passionate defender of a feeling. And once logic is gone, power immediately follows out the door. You stop asking the tough questions. You start making excuses for their behavior. You begin to justify unacceptable actions, the lateness, the inconsistency, the disrespect, just because you feel a connection. That is exactly how they win, not by overwhelming force, but by successfully making you care enough to tolerate the intolerable. Machiavelli understood that emotions are the ultimate cloud over judgment. He famously said, in a strategic context, that a ruler must know how to be both man and beast. I interpret this for the modern strategist as this: logical when it's time to rule your day, emotionless when it's time to protect your throne. In your world, that throne is your mental stability, your peace, your focus, and you defend it by systematically removing emotional bait from your immediate environment. What does that defense look like in practice? It means no overexposure, no compulsive oversharing of your plans, your fears, your hopes, or your recent personal dramas. It means no reactions when provoked. They throw a dart, you don't even flinch. It means moving like a strategist who sees the entire board, not a servant to his momentary, petty feelings. The simple physics of manipulation dictate that the more someone can trigger you, the more power they hold over you. Your anger is a trigger they can pull. Your need for affirmation is a trigger they can pull. Your fear of abandonment is a trigger they can pull. Each trigger is a string, and when you let them yank it, you dance to their tune. You are a puppet controlled by their perception of your emotional weak spots. And here is the deeper insight. The more you care about being understood, the less you'll be able to understand the game. Because the game is not about heartfelt communication. The game is about leverage, positioning, and resource allocation. And your emotional energy is the most precious resource you possess. When the mind starts to spin those toxic narratives, they did this because they don't respect me, or they ignore me because I'm not enough, you are forfeiting the game to the weak inner voice, the voice of the slave, not the strategist. You must replace that dialogue with something cold, something clear, something sovereign. You must tell yourself, I feel nothing. I calculate everything. Say it in the comments. Let the intention set in. Because in this brutal, beautiful, high-stakes world, feelings don't protect you. They expose you. They don't clarify your path. They obfuscate it. Detachment, the ability to feel the emotion but choose the action, that is the only true armor. It is the cold, hard, logical defense of self. You are not here to be the emotionally vulnerable, easily swayed protagonist of someone else's drama. You are here to be the unreadable, unshakable author of your own epic. The moment you decide to stop emotionally investing in the outcomes you cannot control, you start investing in the only thing that matters, the fortress of your own mind. That is the battlefield, and control of your inner state is the only victory that truly counts. We have established the danger of emotional exposure and the predictable weakness it creates. Now, we must transition from defense to offense. We must develop the narrative of a new you, the strategist who moves with purpose, not impulse. This is the exploration of the anatomy of predictable weakness, a deep dive into how your current emotional habits are literally broadcasting your every move to your competitors, your critics, and your manipulators. You need to understand how the system sees you right now. If your actions are governed by how much you care, then you are an open book. Your reaction is the key to your personality, and people hate mystery. They will poke and prod until they figure you out, because once you're figured out, you are contained. When you overcare, you are essentially telling the world, I am willing to abandon my logical self-interest for the temporary relief of your approval. Let's look at the mechanics of this predictability. It is in the details, the micro-behaviors that signal your dependence. Your silence becomes rare. Your presence becomes cheap. If you're always available, always responsive, always ready to jump into the fray, you have devalued your time and your energy. The only thing that grants value is scarcity. When you care too much about being a good friend or a team player, you're saying yes to every request, every demand for your attention, every emotional drain. Your emotional presence, The time you spend listening, explaining, reassuring becomes commodity traded at the lowest possible price. Free. But when you are selective, when your presence is a deliberate choice and your silence is a default, then your time and your words command respect. They are earned, not expected. The fatal error of the over-explanation. The moment you feel compelled to justify, clarify, or defend your choices, you've already lost exchange. Every sigh, every email that is 5 paragraphs longer than necessary, every text message that attempts to decode your complex emotional state for someone who clearly doesn't deserve the insight, all of this is a hemorrhage of power. The need to over-explain stems from the desperate fear of being misunderstood, a clear sign that you prioritize the external perception of your character over the internal conviction of your choices. A strategist acts. He rarely explains. His actions are his defense. When you find yourself writing that long, justifying message, stop. Delete it. Replace it with 2 words. Noted or understood. Let the other person deal with the confusion. Their confusion is your leverage. The addiction to validation. The predictable loop. Your biggest weakness is a hunt for the dopamine hit of acceptance. When people know you crave praise, they simply withhold it until you perform a behavior they desire. When they know you fear criticism, they use the threat of it to keep you in line. You become predictable because your behavior is constantly orbiting the perceived needs and desires of others. You are not moving toward your purpose. You are moving away from external pain. And that need, the constant buzz and emotional hunger to be seen, understood, accepted, that is the chain. That is the leverage. Machiavelli, the master of leverage, understood that true strength isn't shown in how loud you articulate your feelings. It's shown in how quietly you watch others try to rise out of you. He knew that control belongs to the person who is unreadable. When you are unshaken by disrespect, when you are unaffected by flattery, when no one can figure out what gets to you because, truly, nothing they do can penetrate your inner fortress, that's when you ascend to the level of danger. A social dynamic is a psychological war, and the person whose triggers are unknown holds a strategic high ground. The strategy of the unmoved object. This is a game you must now play. The person who doesn't flinch, who doesn't react to the emotional bait, wins the psychological interaction. The one who doesn't chase attraction or acceptance attracts it naturally. And the one who doesn't care about the petty drama controls the narrative. You must internalize this shift in perspective. You are not here to debate the merits of your actions. You are here to execute your mission. You are here to become the unshakable force that requires others to adapt to your reality, not the other way around. Every time you are provoked, every time someone attempts to guilt you or insult you, that is a test. It is a moment of decision. Do you react like the old, predictable you, or do you stand still like the strategic weapon you are becoming? The reaction is a gift you give to your enemy. The silence is the weapon you use against yourself to maintain control. When you are silent, you are calculating. When you are explaining, you are begging. Choose calculation over begging, always. This is a level where you cease being a puppet of your own feelings and become the master puppeteer of the social landscape. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are a force of will, and that force is best expressed not through noise, but through the deep, echoing power of your chosen indifference. We move now into the core discipline, strategic indifference, the new social currency. This is not the careless apathy of a burned-out soul. This is power, carefully concealed and strategically deployed. Most people confuse indifference with being numb, but they are fundamentally different states of being. The numb person cannot feel. The strategically indifferent person chooses not to act on what they feel. This distinction is the difference between slavery and sovereignty. When you master the cold art of not caring about external noise, you don't become less human. You become profoundly more selective. You choose where your limited, precious energy goes. You choose who earns the privilege of eliciting a reaction from you. Most people are spiritual debtors, constantly wasting their energy by reacting to every petty insult, every uninformed opinion, every subtle shift in someone's tone, every social media comment. They are bleeding their life force for people who wouldn't spend a single second worrying about their success or failure. That is not strength. That is not connection. That is emotional slavery. Machiavelli recognized that rulers who react emotionally are easily manipulated. The moment people know what offends you, what excites you, what you desperately need from them, they hold the leverage. Your emotional profile is their intelligence report. But when you become indifferent, when you genuinely stop giving a damn about the things that don't serve your purpose, you break their grip. You become an enigma. They don't know where you stand. They don't know what you want. And that mystery, that unsettling uncertainty, is the most powerful weapon you can deploy. It forces them to guess, to adapt, to overthink. While they're consumed with deciphering your stillness, you remain unmoved, watching the board in silence, calculating your next move. Strategic indifference isn't about being disconnected from life itself. It's about being profoundly untouchable by nonsense. It's the gate you place between your sacred inner world and the constant, noisy, draining demands of the outside world. Let's look at the implementation of this cold art. When someone tries to guilt you, you don't explain. An explanation is an apology for your boundaries. A strategist does not apologize for his choices. You simply acknowledge the guilt trip with a slight, almost imperceptible nod and change the subject, or better yet, end the conversation. You withdraw the emotional validation they were seeking. When someone disrespects you, you don't chase clarity. The old you have chased them down, demanding an apology, seeking validation that you were, in fact, respected. The new you understands that disrespect is a statement about them, not about you. You simply withdraw the one thing they wanted most, your emotional presence. Not anger, not revenge, but indifference. You disappear without a trace, without a word, because they are no longer worthy of your time. Silence backed by self-respect is the most brutal and effective response. People are not used to being ignored. They're used to reactions, anger, tears, over-explanations, defenses. They feed off that energy. But when you cast a bait and give them nothing, they are left to grapple with the void. They unravel. They try harder. They expose their hand. And you, the master of stillness, you rise above the chaos. This is the psychological paradox. My indifference is my revenge. Say it in the comments. Let it be the quiet vow you make to your inner self. The game isn't about how much you care about a person or a situation. It's about how well you can control who gets to feel like they matter to you. When you limit who matters, you limit your vulnerability. Guard your emotional economy. Think of your emotional energy like a vast, finite fortune. Every reaction, every explanation, every moment of anxiety over what someone else thinks is a costly expenditure. The indifferent person is an emotional minimalist. They don't waste currency on low-value transactions. They are ruthless in their focus. Ask yourself in every moment of tension, does this deserve my energy? If the answer is no, you let the feeling pass, like a cloud across the sun. You do not engage. You do not justify. You simply choose peace over proving a point. This discipline allows you to operate on a higher plane. While others are dragged down by their feelings, reacting to most recent slight, you are executing your long-term vision. You are not cold because you are heartless. You are cold because your purpose is too powerful to be constantly interrupted by the petty dramas of the unevolved. Your heart is too powerful to be handled carelessly. You detach not to hurt them, but to protect the integrity of yourself. You are no longer available for emotional manipulation. You are not here to be understood by the masses. You are here to become the unreadable, unshakable force that others must reckon with. And the moment you stop responding emotionally, you stop being readable. And when you stop being readable, you start becoming, in the most respectful, strategically advantageous sense, feared. We have arrived at the internal siege, chaos versus the fortress. This is the first climax, the point where the rubber meets the road, the agonizing, high-stakes internal conflict between the deeply conditioned emotional impulse and the strategic, detached will. This is the moment when the old self fights the new, and this internal battle is where most people falter, falling back into the comfort of predictable weakness. Detachment does not mean you don't feel. That's the common, dangerous misconception. Detachment means you feel the emotion rise, the sudden surge of anger, the hollow ache of disappointment, the burning need to defend yourself. But you do not act like a fool because you feel it. That is the critical difference between weakness, reaction, and strategy choice. Most people are trapped in emotional suppression, and that's why they eventually burn out and explode. Suppression is when you feel something, a deep, visceral rage, and you aggressively shove it down, burying it alive. It sits beneath the surface, building pressure until you rupture. Detachment, however, is when you feel it, you recognize it without judgment. That is anger. That is a fear of abandonment. You control its external expression and you choose not to act on its impulse. One is pressure, leading to an inevitable explosion. The other is power, leading to strategic action. Machiavelli never said that a ruler should not have emotions. He understood human nature too well for that. He argued that a ruler must learn to act against them when strategy demands it. That means feeling the white-hot flash of fury, but choosing, with ice-cold discipline, not to react in the moment. It means feeling the profound disappointment and betrayal, but refusing to fold your hand or lash out in vengeance. You feel the fear, but you refuse to let the fear dictate your next move. This is not about being a robot. That's an immature goal. This is about being dominant over your inner world. Because once you are in complete, quiet control of what goes on inside, nobody, no provocation, no insult, no external chaos, can shake you from the outside. Your external peace is merely a reflection of your internal mastery. So, how do you perform this act of real-time detachment in the heat of the moment? How do you command your fortress when the enemy is breaching the gates? First, the observation of triggers. Let it rise. Don't let it run. Every time someone tries to offend you, delays you, ghosts you, pressures you, or insults you, you must stop. Physically halt the impulse to respond. You don't react. You just watch. You let the feeling rise up your throat, into your chest, and you observe it. You name it. That is the need to defend my ego. That is the fear of being seen as weak. You are separating the emotion, the data, from the response, the action. You owe no one a reaction. You owe no one access to the privileged, sacred state of your emotional core. Second, the interruption of the toxic story. This is where the siege often begins. Your mind is an engine of narrative, and in moments of weakness, it spins destructive stories. They did this because they don't respect me. If I don't respond, they will win. I need to explain the truth. Cut it. These thoughts are not the property of a strategist. They belong to a slave of external perception. You must interrupt the monologue. Replace the emotional narrative with a cold, logical assessment. Interesting. Noted. Data collected. Now let's focus on the mission. You are not here to decode disrespect or win a moral argument. You are here to build control and execute your purpose. Third, the vanishing act without guilt. If someone crosses a boundary that compromises your mission or your peace, you owe them nothing. You don't owe them an explanation, a final warning, or a dramatic, emotional goodbye. That is the theater of the weak. You simply leave. You vanish. That is the profound, cold power of the strategist. Trust me, silence echoes louder than any desperate speech. When someone wrongs you and you don't even blink, when you simply remove yourself as an accessible variable, they remember that forever. The lack of reaction is a punishment that far outweighs any anger. Fourth, focus on mission, not emotional resolution. The reason most people remain emotionally entangled is because they have nothing stronger than the emotion. The drama is the most compelling thing in their life. But when you have a purpose, a towering, self-defined goal that requires every ounce of your focus, everything else becomes noise. A person without purpose will always be ruled by their feelings. A person with purpose will use his feelings as data points, as motivation, but he will never bow to them. Ask yourself the brutal, clarifying question. Is this emotional entanglement helping me dominate my purpose or draining the energy required for it? If it's draining, it dies. Ruthlessly. Fifth, emotional minimalism. The silence of a strategist. You don't need closure. You don't need to be seen. You just need to stay sharp, calm, and sovereign. People who try to pull you into emotional chaos, the constant texting, the drama, the guilt trips, are terrified of your silence. Why? Because silence means you are operating in pure, detached logic, not weakness. And logic, not emotion, is Machiavelli's true battlefield. The truth is that emotional detachment is not coldness. It is supreme clarity. It is the absolute knowing that caring too deeply about the wrong people, the wrong problems, and the wrong moments will cost you your focus, your edge, and your very life purpose. You detach not because you are heartless, but because your inner world is too powerful and too sacred to be handled carelessly by external forces. Say it with the cold, clear conviction of a ruler. I don't chase closure. I control exposure. Let it be known, not to them, but to your own subconscious. You are no longer available for emotional manipulation. You are not here to be understood by the mob. You are here to become the unshakable weapon of your own destiny. This is the second climax, the moment of the unbreakable code, rebuilding the self as weapon. You've been playing defense, learning how to stop reacting. Now, we flip the entire dynamic. This is the truth that will change your trajectory. True Machiavellian power is not achieved by simply hiding your emotions. It is achieved by allowing your disciplined silence to create a psychological void that forces everyone else to chase your approval, your attention, and your explanation. The twist is this. When you stop caring, they start obsessing. In a world addicted to validation, the moment you withdraw the source of their fix, your predictable emotional feedback, you trigger a desperate, unsettling pursuit. When you go quiet, they get loud. When you disappear, they panic. When you stop reacting to their bait, they start spiraling into uncertainty. This is not a coincidence. It is psychological warfare based on the principle of scarcity. People are emotional addicts, and when they stop getting their hit of validation from you, they crave it even more, especially if you were once freely available. Emotional detachment triggers obsession. When you stop giving people predictable emotional feedback, they become uncertain about their position, their status, and their influence over you. And in human psychology, uncertainty breeds addiction. They start replaying old conversations. They reread old messages, searching for a sign, a clue. They question themselves. Did I say something wrong? Why haven't they responded? Do they hate me now? And the longer you maintain your dignified, purposeful silence, the louder their mind gets. That's power. That is the highest form of strategic leverage. Niccolo Machiavelli knew that the moment you pull away without warning or explanation, you create a vacuum, a void of emotional data. And people will do almost anything to fill that void. Why? Not because they suddenly realized they loved you, but because you became a mirror they could no longer control. And that loss of control eats at the insecure mind. You don't create obsession or respect through over-attention. You create it through absence. You don't become respected by being constantly available and emotionally expressive. You become unforgettable and powerful by being scarce, silent, and cold in your strategic decisions. This detachment, this coldness, is not aimed at hurting them. It is aimed at protecting you and maximizing your leverage. You are no longer here to be emotionally generous with people who demonstrate, through their actions, that they do not value your sacred energy. You are here to build a psychological fortress, and silence is a leverage that defends the walls. Let this sink in. I give nothing for free, not even my attention. Say it, and internalize the power of that boundary. Once you truly learn to stop caring about their immediate perception of you, the very same people who once dismissed you will be haunted by your silence. Let them wonder. Let them overthink. Let them chase a version of you, the available, reactive, easily manipulated version. They will never get again. You don't owe them closure. You owe yourself peace and the leverage of your own mystery. Furthermore, this coldness is your greatest asset in social warfare. In a world obsessed with validation and immediate emotional gratification, the person who doesn't react wins. While everyone else is chasing status, attention, apologies, and recognition, the one who sits still, calculating in silence, owns the room. That is not just attachment. That is dominance. Every group you enter, every conversation you are a part of, is a subtle war for power and fame. People size you up not by the clothes you wear, but by how emotionally reactive you are. Do you flinch when challenged? Do you over-explain when questioned? Do you beg for approval when ignored? They are always testing, silently, subconsciously, for the weakness of emotional dependence. And most people fail instantly because they cannot handle being misunderstood. They cannot tolerate silence, and they beg to be seen. Machiavelli's chilling guidance rings true here. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. That fear doesn't come from physical violence. It comes from profound, unsettling stillness, from being utterly unreadable, from being emotionally unavailable to their manipulation attempts. When someone insults you and your tone remains perfectly neutral, you win. When someone tries to provoke a fight and you answer with cold, controlled silence, they crumble, not because you said something powerful, but because you said nothing at all, denying the energy they sought to consume. Emotionlessness confuses the average person. They are trained to control others through guilt, drama, and emotional bait. But when they cast a bait and you refuse to bite, you flip the script. Suddenly, they start chasing your approval. They begin to doubt their control. They become insecure in the presence of your unshakable indifference. The one who cares less always controls more. This doesn't mean being cruel. It means being ruthlessly controlled. It means knowing that true power belongs to the one who can remain calm in chaos, silent under pressure, and emotionally neutral in storms designed explicitly to break him. You want to dominate social interactions? Do less. Speak less. Reveal less. Watch everything. Speak only with purpose. And when you do speak, let it be from a position of calm, cold logic, not emotional reaction. Emotional people chase outcomes. Strategic people observe them. Emotional people beg for understanding. Strategic people collect data. And in every single interaction, the quiet, disciplined mind always wins. Once people realize they can't get a rise out of you, they stop trying to dominate you. You have effectively removed yourself from their emotional chessboard. They have no move. Say it one last time with the finality of decision that cannot be reversed. I am unreadable. I am unshakable. Let the world know you no longer play emotional games. You play psychological warfare, and you play to win. Because emotion makes you visible, but indifference, calculated, strategic, controlled indifference, that makes you unstoppable. This is the empire of quiet dominance, the final evolution. We are not ending with a dramatic explosion, but with a calculated, cold integration of all we have learned. This is a conclusion, the final synthesis that shifts you from a reactor to a sovereign ruler of your own life. You have now moved beyond the need to be loud, beyond the futile effort of proving anything to anyone. Your final act of power is a withdrawal of everything they use to feed on, your emotions, your reactions, your energy, and your over-explanation. You are no longer their fuel. You are no longer their mirror. You are the wall, the silence, the unshakable presence that cannot be moved by external noise. You understand the game now. In a world full of emotionally fragile, perpetually performing people, the one who controls his inner world is the one who controls the outer one. You know that silence is not weakness. It is profound calculation. Detachment is not loneliness. It is absolute leverage. You don't need to be heard. You don't need to be validated. You don't even need to be liked. You need one thing, and one thing only, power over yourself. Because once you master that, everything else, their opinions, their drama, their attempt to control, becomes secondary, irrelevant noise. Let them call you cold. Let them say you've changed. Let them misunderstand your silence, your absence, your refusal to play their tired, manipulative games. That is the necessary price of your evolution. That is the cost of becoming a person they can no longer touch, a man or woman they cannot exploit. Machiavelli didn't seek to be popular. He sought to rule. He studied weakness so he could rise above it. And now, so, do you? You are no longer the one who explains his life to everyone. You are no longer the one who overthinks unreturned messages, replays painful conversations, or needs emotional closure from those who wronged him. You have exited that debilitating cycle. You are now a strategist, cold, clear, and calculating. They don't need to understand your journey. They only need to feel your absence. They need to realize with a cold shock that you were the asset, not the option. From this point forward, you must live by this final, unbreakable code, the rule of the sovereign self. 1. The energy clause. If it drains my focus, it does not get my presence. Your energy is currency. Spend it only on what builds your empire. 2. The peace clause. If it does not protect my inner peace, it does not get my emotional energy. Guard your mind like a fortress, and do not let casual visitors disturb the king or queen within. 3. The silence clause. If it does not respect my silence, it loses complete access to my world. You do not argue with a fool. You simply walk away and let the consequences of their poor character be their own punishment. This is the ultimate lesson. You've been taught your whole life that kindness means being constantly available, that strength means always talking things out. But that is how they kept you weak. That is how they made you easy to manipulate. Because a person who is emotionally open to everyone is vulnerable to anyone. Let me tell you what strength truly looks like, the kind that endures. Strength is walking away without saying a word, because your action speaks louder than any speech. Strength is letting someone feel your absence without giving them the comfort of closure. Strength is not needing to beg, not needing to argue, not needing to be liked. It is being profoundly okay with being misunderstood because you understand the game, and that is enough. When people realize that you cannot be moved emotionally, a powerful psychological shift occurs. They begin to self-regulate. They start choosing their words carefully. They step lighter. Why? Because now you hold the frame. You own the tempo. And if they wish to be in your world, they must play by your rules of respect and detachment, or they will be cut out entirely. This is how you reclaim your power, in silence, in cold, controlled distance. Stop explaining yourself to people who have already decided to misunderstand you. Stop arguing with people who only wait for their turn to speak. Stop wasting your sacred breath on relationships that feed on your attention but starve your purpose. Coldness is a sophisticated, efficient filter. It shows you exactly who valued you and who only valued access to your energy. And because of this coldness, you walk lighter. You sleep deeper. You plan sharper. You rise higher. You become the quiet force others whisper about. Not because you boast, but because your silence echoes louder than their noise. Say it one last time in the comments. Let the intention solidify. Emotion doesn't rule me. I rule everything. This is not a mindset. This is the final evolution. A shift from reaction to reign. From approval-seeking to untouchable sovereignty. You have made it through the cold art. You have faced the uncomfortable truth that your need for acceptance was the lever of your own control. You have embraced the understanding that emotional distance builds long-term power. Most people trade their emotional energy for crumbs of temporary approval. But you, the strategist, you play the long game. You don't need applause. You are not addicted to being liked. You are calculating, always thinking 10 moves ahead. And the consistent advantage you possess is your distance. When you detach from needing to be accepted, you stop negotiating your value. You start observing the field. You start choosing your interactions. You gain leverage because you are not desperately tied to immediate outcomes. Your silence is a slow burn. Your detachment is a long-term punishment for those who sought to exploit you. They won't feel the full weight of it now, but over time, they will realize what they lost. Not your drama, but your powerful, valuable presence. And you will be utterly free. You trade emotions for elevation. That is the code. This is a shift from the endless cycle of reaction to the quiet, dignified plateau of reign. If you are ready to become the coldest, calmest, most untouchable version of yourself, if you are ready to master your inner world and use the timeless wisdom of strategy to dominate your future, then I have one final command for you. Like this video, subscribe to the Stoic philosophy, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next stage of your evolution. Because this isn't motivation. This is warfare for the soul, and it starts and ends within your control.